Hey everybody, welcome back to our film of the week. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. It's been a little bit since we've done a film of the week on this channel. Apologies for that, and also quite a long time since we've done a Blind Tuesdays as well. I am going to be bringing those segments back. It's just been busy with a lot of things, and just also in the same spirit, I've been fairly lazy. But we'll hopefully have some more content in those fronts coming in the future. But we're doing another film of the week once again, and for this time, we're going to be doing something that is probably one of the more classic pieces in cinematic history, and to provide some relevancy also to today's current current modern film. This week, Wicked, the latest adaptation of the of the Wizard of Oz flair. I mean, primarily being based on a stage play called Wicked, but basically inherently so having the Wizard of Oz, about all that stuff. I figured in the spirit of the film coming out, I would visit the original piece and discuss it, as I've never actually have watched the original film. So I figured to give a review and to see what is labeled as one of the most classic of classics in film. So that film that we're going to be discussing today is The Wizard of Oz, which was directed by Victor Fleming, who previously, I believe, previously, would direct, of course, Gone with the Wind, which is another famous film and film. And I personally really enjoyed it. I did a review on it on the channel, and I think it's very, very good. For as long as that film plays, it's actually quite remarkable how much I find myself enjoying it and being invested in its narrative. Um, but this is The Wizard of Oz, and this stars, of course, Judy Garland as Dorothy, and starts off, of course, with her and her farm, and she has a dog named Toto, and she's not being as welcomed, and she isn't feeling as a part of the family, or as um, the whole environment, as it were, as she just feels like an outcast and she feels like an outsider. She's wanting to see what lies beyond the picket fence, what is out there, do some exploring of her own. And during some extreme circumstances involving a very nasty lady who wishes to take her dog away, she decides to run away with her dog. And through uh, conveniences, in my opinion, the film, Dorothy eventually finds her way back to the farm. And as she is getting back, there is a tornado, a huge tornado that is heading towards the farm. And she arrives late to gain shelter, and she gets whipped up into the air with the house, and eventually she gets knocked out unconscious. And the film follows essentially a dream that's set within an environment which is labeled Oz. This town, these are like areas here and there, but primarily so the ruler of the whole place is run by a powerful wizard named Oz in the city, Emerald City. And to there, Dorothy can find her way back to Kansas, and along the way, she finds people that also need help, and she tries to help them as well by getting them to follow the Yellow Brick Road and to get to the Wizard of Oz before the Wicked Witch of the East, or the West, I believe, gets to them first. So of course, like I've illustrated up top, I mean, this is one of the classics of classics, and also has garnished a bit of uh, a bit of a disturbance in terms of some viewers, and I could see why, because some of the aesthetic is um, a little unnerving to say the least. Um, but here's the thing about The Wizard of Oz. So I just got done watching it, and I'm just letting it soak in. But there's a few feelings that come to mind that I feel I will echo, and then other things I feel I will be a little, uh, I will feel to be in the minority on. But to echo a few things, I mean, obviously aesthetically, it is a thing of beauty. The transition of one of the more iconic parts of the film, of course, going from black to white to color, is just astounding. That transition alone is just a piece of art. It's beautiful. I've almost teared up, quite frankly, in that sequence, just because of how beautiful it actually plays. Um, The musical numbers are sweet. They're charming. They're joyous. Um, I mean, there might be a little one too many for my taste because I've always taken an issue with musicals when it comes to the volume of their singing. I think that there's just a balance that needs to be made a lot of times within storytelling and with musical elements. For my money, one of my favorite musicals of all time would be that of Singing in the Rain or the original West Side Story. Stuff like those, I believe, have more of a balance in utilizing sound, music, and dialogue. And with The Wizard of Oz, it does feel a little bit at times, a little bit of just much when it comes to the music. Um, but primarily speaking, aesthetically speaking, it is a thing of beauty, especially when we get to color. It just looks great. Black and white also looks terrific as well. Performances are also good. I think Judy Garland brings a lot of passion to the role of Dorothy, and I find her to be very convincing in that respect. But the issues that I take with The Wizard of Oz, because I think it's apparent by my setup that I'm not as won over by The Wizard of Oz as some people might be, because the big issue that I take with The Wizard of Oz is really to do with the packaging of its messaging. Now, it's very, frank in its messaging about selfishness versus selflessness, and inherently so. Those messages are not, there's nothing wrong with that. They're actually very, very mature messages to bring up. But I think that the utilization of that message is really gaslighting because it paints Dorothy the wrongdoer of the story. Now, I feel as though that in saying that, I want to say that that is a conversation that has been made in the modern day about the messaging of the Wizard of Oz. I feel as though that is a conversation that is taking place. I don't know for certainty, but I feel like that there absolutely is a conversation in that respect. And I would fully agree in that because I think that to paint Dorothy as something of not as a a victim of neglect, but ultimately that of just a child. I mean, for one thing, it might demonstrate just the times, because remember this was a film that was made in the early 40s, so perhaps that shared ignorance was very apparent at the time. So to then translate that to the modern day language, it's there is obviously a barrier. There's a differences in that overall philosophy, um, and for me anyway, I just feel that it just doesn't rang as true when when you put it in the modern era, when you translate that idea of what Dorothy is and ultimately what she means to the story. I just don't feel that it is as complimentary, and I feel it paints her not as a victim, but as a as the again like the wrongdoer, as someone who is inciting the problems. And I think that that's just really, really unfair, especially with just how the film sets up Dorothy with her dilemmas and how she's being stripped away of the things that she loves. There's a reason why she wants to leave. It's not out of selfishness, it's out of the apparent neglect that is within her environment. So I feel that the ignorance surrounding that, I feel, is one hurdle that you have to get over. And it's just, I just feel I just feel it's an illustration of the times, as it were, when it comes to viewing this film. And speaking on a technical level, I mean, it does feel rather rushed because the elements feel as if they just kind of exist. There's these, there's this pink wizard that just kind of is there, and then there's other things that are just there that just kind of are there just to give the narrative some stitch, some thread, not necessarily to where it feels like a nice flow, a nice progression. Just feels like things just happen out of conveniences and just again just to give the film some life, as it were. um, it's really, like, I would say, in a visual front, it kind of is more or less the Scarecrow in that it just kind of tumbles around, but it doesn't necessarily have a you know a it is moving, but it's not necessarily moving with a lot of confidence and you know strength, more or less just dwindling, kind of in a drunken type state. So, and to some extent, by the aesthetic, I mean, it absolutely kind of is that of a fever dream. So my point on that is not completely, uh, ignorant. So, but but as it stands, I mean, there are elements there that are interesting, performances that are charming, aesthetic that is just really, really delightful, really beautiful. But I take great issue with just how they utilize this messaging. And I think that it just is an illustration of the times of when the film was made. And I don't think that it stacks up. I don't think that it is. Um, I don't think that it works as well today. And I think both general quality as well. I feel it doesn't. It just it's it's a film that has definitely aged. In like discussing other films of Victor Fleming's, like Gone with the Wind, I think really does work. Because of how well that film is constructed. Whereas with this, it just really speeds along and just gives little explanation for things. And it's a film that relies upon, as I've kind of illustrated with in how its messaging overall is. It um it it moves along in like it relies upon a level of ignorance in order to really be won over by it. You have to really turn your brain off to questions regarding narrative and regarding details and regarding this and that and about how they're representing the main character. If you're able to turn that off, you may perhaps be completely won over by the spirit of the Wizard of Oz, because there is spirit there, there is charm to it. Primarily, as I've illustrated, in its aesthetic, um, and by overall design, by how everything looks. It just looks really, really wonderful, especially when you consider the time of when the film was made. It's quite astonishing to see how beautiful it actually looks. Um, but in the messaging of it, what it is discussing, I feel it is very problematic, and I feel that it doesn't translate as well, and it is a product of a time, and not a message um, that is that is it's a message that is bound within a certain time. It is not a message that extends further through time. It's a message that is very specific in terms of how it is dissected. It's very specific to a particular time and to a particular mindset. And in that, I say it's a fairly ignorant story. And I just wasn't really won over by that delivery, and I feel as though that it deflates, and just generally by technicality, by just how it's paced. I feel that it just kind of whips by and doesn't really give much time to supply a lot of substance. So, so in general, I feel that it's just fine, really. I mean, nothing really that noteworthy, nothing really that astonishing outside of how it looks. Um, I just feel it has its problems, and I feel that those issues are very, especially to today. I feel if anyone who was to watch it, I feel they would really pick up on how gaslighting that phrasing or that delivery of that messaging rather is, frankly. So. So it's okay. I'm not particularly a big fan of it. I know there's plenty of fans of it, but I just am not really one of those people. I acknowledge that it's a classic, but I think that it's more or less in terms of how it delivers its messaging. I believe it's more of a product of its time, and in that I feel it has aged and aged not as well, in my view. So. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on The Wizard of Oz. I think it's okay. It's nothing too noteworthy to me outside of how it looks and, some notable performances here and there, specifically with Judy Garland. There's some things there that raise it to some form of mediocrity, but the messaging, how it is delivered, I take issue with, and I don't think it is proper. I don't think it's sound. I think that it's very gaslighting and, frankly, very ignorant in how it wishes to dissect its main character and ultimately how they represent that character. I just feel is um, I just feel is misjudged in my view. But you guys know your thoughts on The Wizard of Oz. If you guys have seen it, if you guys have seen Wicked as well, let me know your thoughts. And heard it's actually looking to probably do well this weekend. But you guys let me know all your thoughts, all things Wizard of Oz, Wicked. If you guys have seen the play, anything of that nature, let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.